He finally landed the job everyone dreams of, $100,000 a year in the heart of America. Friends congratulated him, family was proud. For the first time, he felt unstoppable. Life was finally paying off for all the late nights and sacrifices. He thought, now I can live the life I deserve. At first, he was careful. He saved a little, spent a little. But slowly, life caught up with him. A bigger apartment, a new car, nights out with friends, fancy dinners. Each month, his paycheck vanished faster than he could track it. The American dream, once a symbol of freedom, now felt like a cage. Credit cards felt like magic. Rewards points, cash back, swipe after swipe. He believed he was smart, paying the minimum, chasing the next perk. But the interest was relentless. Every month, it silently grew, unnoticed, until it was a monster he couldn't control. He thought he was building wealth, but he was building debt. Then life hit him with the unexpected, a sudden medical bill, job uncertainty, car repairs. His emergency fund? Non-existent. One by one, his financial safety nets disappeared. Panic replaced confidence, anxiety replaced pride. He realized that money alone couldn't protect him from the unexpected. The stress crept in slowly, then all at once. Late nights staring at bank statements, constant calls from creditors, friends asking why he wasn't joining trips, parties, or new adventures. Instagram painted a picture of his life that wasn't real, a curated success that hid the cracks underneath. He earned more than most people could dream of, yet somehow he was broke. The truth hit hard. Earning more money doesn't automatically make you rich. It exposes the weaknesses, the bad habits, the mistakes you've been ignoring. The brutal reality was clear. He worked harder, earned more, but without control over spending, without emergency savings, without understanding the trap of lifestyle inflation, his money disappeared as quickly as it came. Salary doesn't equal wealth. Income doesn't equal freedom. He looked back and realized that the system itself made it easy for him to fail. Credit cards, tempting purchases, easy loans, they all promised convenience, status, happiness, but they quietly chained him. Every swipe, every small purchase, every minimum payment had been a step deeper into debt. And yet, he wasn't alone. Millions of Americans lived the same story. High income, low wealth, chasing appearances instead of building security. It's not laziness, it's not bad luck, it's education, mindset, and habits. The lesson he learned, painfully, was simple. Income is only useful if managed with discipline. Without it, it vanishes. Without it, the American dream becomes an illusion. Now he's slowly rebuilding. Small changes, smarter choices, learning to live below his means. Not glamorous, not flashy, but stable. And for the first time, he feels what real wealth can mean: freedom, security, and peace of mind. Earning more money will never fix bad habits. It will only expose them. And for anyone watching this story, take note. It's not how much you earn, but how wisely you manage it that determines your true wealth.
He realized that every little habit mattered. Waking up late, unnecessary subscriptions, eating out too often, all these small decisions added up. They quietly drained his bank account while he thought he was living comfortably. It was a slow, invisible leak that had now become a flood. He started noticing how society glorified spending. Friends would talk about the latest gadgets, cars, or vacations as if they were badges of honor. Social media amplified the illusion. Everyone looked successful, happy, and carefree. But behind the scenes, many were struggling just like him. He understood that comparison was a silent enemy, constantly feeding dissatisfaction. Debt wasn't the only problem. He had lost touch with the value of money. To him, earning $100,000 felt like freedom, but freedom requires more than income. It requires knowledge, discipline, and planning. Without these, every dollar earned could vanish, no matter how large the paycheck. Slowly, the reality sank in. His lifestyle had grown faster than his financial intelligence. His spending habits had turned the dream of wealth into a nightmare of stress. He began asking himself hard questions. Why was he working so hard? Why did he feel broke despite earning so much? Where had he gone wrong? He remembered the first paycheck and the excitement it brought. He thought he was smart, making all the right moves, and yet he had fallen into the exact trap that many high earners face. Money had not solved his problems, it had exposed them. At this point, he felt the weight of the invisible pressure. Calls from creditors, notices from banks, and reminders of bills he couldn't fully pay haunted him daily. Sleep became difficult. Nights were spent thinking, planning, worrying. Anxiety had replaced confidence. The joy of earning had disappeared. But amidst the struggle, a small realization emerged. He understood that the path forward wasn't about earning more, it was about control. Control over spending, control over habits, control over decisions. Discipline would be his only real wealth. He began making small changes, tracking every expense, cutting unnecessary subscriptions, limiting dining out, focusing on saving no matter how small the amount. Each tiny victory brought back a sense of power he had lost. Slowly, the flood of debt began to feel manageable. The biggest lesson he learned, and the one he wished he had understood sooner, was that wealth isn't measured by income, it's measured by freedom. Freedom from stress, freedom from dependence, and freedom to live without fear of the next bill. He realized that millions of Americans were trapped in the same cycle: high income, low wealth, chasing appearances instead of security. And he made a silent promise to himself. He would break the cycle. He would live deliberately, not by society's definitions, but by his own rules. He also realized that money mistakes were often invisible until it was too late. Every coffee, every online purchase, every small impulse buy added up over months and years. What felt harmless in the moment had quietly created a mountain of financial pressure. He began to see patterns in his behavior: late-night spending, unnecessary subscriptions, over-reliance on credit. These were habits that anyone could fall into, no matter how much they earned. Income was not the solution. Awareness was. Discipline was the true wealth. He started setting new rules for himself. No spending without purpose, saving before buying, understanding interest rates, credit limits, and hidden fees. Each small step was a battle against habits that had silently controlled his life for years. He also learned to separate wants from needs. A new car, expensive clothes, fancy restaurants, they no longer held the same allure. He realized that real satisfaction came from security, peace of mind, and small victories over old financial mistakes. Slowly, the stress began to ease. With each passing month, he could see the results of his new habits. Debt started to shrink. Savings grew, even if just a little. Confidence returned. The fear that had haunted him for years began to fade. But the journey wasn't easy. It required constant vigilance, repeated reminders, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. He had to admit that the system, society, and even his own mindset had all contributed to his struggles. Acceptance was the first step toward change. He realized that wealth was not about how much you earned, but how wisely you managed it. Without control, even the highest salary could disappear in weeks. Without discipline, freedom remained an illusion. By the end of his journey, he felt the hard truth. Earning a lot of money doesn't guarantee happiness, security, or freedom. What matters most are habits, choices, and the knowledge to protect oneself from financial traps. Now, as he looked back, he felt a sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the lessons learned the hard way, for the mistakes that revealed the truth, and for the opportunity to rebuild his life with wisdom. He knew that while earning more could open doors, only disciplined choices could keep them open. This story is a warning. Millions of Americans earn high salaries but remain trapped in debt, anxiety, and stress. The lesson is clear. Wealth is created in the mind and habits, not just in the paycheck. He learned, painfully, that the path to real wealth starts with awareness, discipline, and consistency. Every small choice matters. Every decision shapes the future. And while income can provide opportunities, only control over money can create freedom.
He began to notice how small daily decisions shaped his financial reality. Skipping a budget, ignoring bills, or buying things just because, all of these had consequences he hadn't realized before. Every dollar he spent without thought was a step further away from stability. He also understood the power of habits. A single positive habit, like saving a small percentage of income consistently, could outweigh months of careless spending. Conversely, even a small negative habit repeated daily could undo years of effort. The lesson was simple. Habits create wealth or destroy it. Over time, he learned to prioritize what truly mattered. Security, peace of mind, and freedom replaced fleeting desires for material things. He stopped comparing himself to others and focused on his own journey. The noise of society, social media, and friends chasing status no longer dictated his choices. He began to teach himself financial literacy, learning about interest rates, investments, credit scores, and emergency funds became daily rituals. Slowly, knowledge replaced fear. He realized that the true enemy wasn't money itself, it was ignorance. As he adjusted his spending, he noticed a mental shift. Anxiety faded, replaced by control. Sleep came easier, mornings felt lighter, and he could finally focus on long-term goals rather than immediate gratification. Each small victory reinforced the power of discipline. He also reflected on the emotional side of money. Guilt, shame, and fear had driven him for years. Now he was learning patience, forgiveness, and persistence. He realized that financial growth wasn't just about numbers, it was about mindset. He understood that setbacks would come as life is unpredictable, but with preparation, discipline, and awareness, setbacks could be managed without spiraling into stress or debt. He felt empowered knowing that he could handle challenges intelligently instead of being a victim of circumstance. He remembered how easy it was to slip into the cycle of spending. The lure of new gadgets, tempting sales, and peer pressure could still distract him, but now he could recognize the trap before falling into it. Awareness had become his strongest tool. By the end of this journey, he felt a profound transformation, not because he suddenly became wealthy, but because he had regained control over his life. Money no longer dictated his happiness, nor did fear govern his decisions. He had learned to live intentionally. And the final truth he realized, one that he wished everyone knew, is that real wealth is invisible. It's not flashy cars or luxury vacations. It's peace of mind, stability, and freedom from the endless cycle of debt and anxiety.